Well, welcome to the 2024 open house. Today, we'll have a chance to talk about Montana State's Montana Dietetic Internship, both the Master of Science in Dietetic Systems Leadership, that MSDI pathway, and the Dietetic Internship Only pathway. I'm Lindsay Ganong. I am the Graduate Education and Clinical Supervised Practice Director. It's really great to have you all here with us.
Absolutely. I'm Anna Diffenderfer. Welcome. I lead more of the operations and sustainable food systems emphasis area and the supervised practice, so the dietetic internship second year.
And I'm Kira Bartley, the assistant director of the program, so I do a little bit of it all. Glad to have you all here today.
So this program at Montana State, we are Montana State University in Bozeman, Montana. And this program is an MSDI, so it's a Master of Science in Dietetic Systems Leadership. And then our dietetic internship has a sustainable food systems focus, which we'll spend some time talking about while we're together today. So at MDI, our goal is really to develop emerging professionals. And these are professionals who are confident learners. Of course, our goal in education is to help teach you how to think, how to learn. And the master's program is a lot of that, learning how you can figure out answers for yourselves as you move into practice. And that emerging professionals piece is really based on our focus areas too. Our focus in sustainable food systems, weight inclusive care, Indigenous food systems, community food security. These are all things that we want you to be leaders in. And as you step into your dietetic internship, your supervised practice year, and then out into practice, you're going to be leading the charge on these really difficult problems that we don't yet have solutions to. We hope that you're progressive and critical thinkers, again, like finding a new way to think about these really wicked or entrenched problems that we have, that you get the tools to really solve those here at this program and move out into the profession. So let's look at an overview of the program. We have a 2-year program that we'll first talk about, the MSDI. So it is a Master of Science in Dietetic Systems Leadership. The program starts in May with one 6-week summer session, and then it's a break until the next fall semester. So it goes through 6 semesters in total, ending in May of 2027. That first year, starting in May till the next June, is online coursework, and it's technically 4 semesters of online coursework. 1 class in the summer, 3 classes fall, 3 classes spring, 1 more class in the summer, all before coming to Montana for that dietetic internship or supervised practice portion. So our plan is we will select 26 students for the 2025-27 MSDI cohort. That's what we're accredited for. This year and last year, we have 18 students each, and that's an awesome number and feels really good in our program, but we could select up to 26. We also have 3 DI only student openings, and those would be for folks who are master's prepared already and come to Montana just for that dietetic internship. And that would start in fall of 25 and go into spring of 26. So just 2 semesters. So in that year 2 of supervised practice, that's where the sustainable food systems emphasis comes through. And we also have some other focus areas that we're really working on developing in weight inclusive care, Indigenous and rural health, and that community food access piece. In the final 2 semesters, students take credits in Nutrition 598, which is internship, as well as credits in professional project, and we'll have some time to talk about that coming up too. In that year 2 is when students move from wherever they are taking online classes in the first year to their assigned geographic area in Montana for those supervised practice sites, and we'll look at those sites as well.
So some logistics you might be wondering about. We've tried to design the program to allow for students to work in the first year if they are needing to. The program kicks off in summer 2025 with a 3-day orientation in person here in Bozeman. So you can kind of get a feel for the area, meet the team, and connect with your peers. Next, there's online coursework for the first 4 semesters, so including summer, fall, spring, and then the next summer. So yeah, you can remain in your home community and hopefully coordinate with any sort of work schedules you might have. It's a mix of synchronous and asynchronous courses, so recorded lectures and live lectures. And we just require that you have reliable access to internet for that. And then the next summer in August 2026 is when supervised practice begins. So you travel to Bozeman again. We spend some weeks in orientation and professional development, and then you move out into your supervised practice. So it can include anywhere from 5 to 11 weeks of rotations in the Bozeman area, and then you travel on to your placement location. So that's either in Kalispell, Missoula, Butte, Great Falls, Helena, or Billings. And we sometimes offer Sheridan, Wyoming as well, if that's a good fit.
So let's take a look at the whole curriculum, but we'll really focus on the first year here. So it's a cohort-based program, and what we mean by that is that we accept a group together that moves through coursework pretty much together in a group. So that first course is Family Law and Public Policy, and we're really proud to be a program that offers a course on public policy, and we hear great feedback from students about that course. It's also interdisciplinary, so dietetic students are in classes with other disciplines. Next, in the fall, students focus on research methods and critical thinking, research, and evidence-informed nutrition practice. That Nutrition 527, the evidence-informed practice course, is a deep dive into weight science, social determinants of health, and weight-inclusive care. And students are tasked with taking a look at what evidence do we have that weight loss is actually effective treatment for a slew of different disease states and conditions, even including like sports nutrition, those kinds of things. So it's a welcome opportunity for students to dive in and see for themselves what does the evidence show. There's also an advanced food systems management course, and that one's totally asynchronous. And really, by food systems management, we mean food service management, and sometimes how it's understood as well. In spring, students take advanced medical nutrition therapy, the second research methods course, where they dive into building a research proposal and maybe even start collecting some data for their own research project. And then there's a chance to take an elective. And this is where students can focus in on native food systems, sustainable food systems. We have a course that looks at sustainable diets and food environments, as well as US food policy, so that students can really start to understand how we're going to feed this world in the era of climate change. And we also have classes in health informatics, food innovation and entrepreneurship, where students get to make a business plan and work with our food product development lab. And we have a few other nursing and community health courses available for folks who want to focus on gerontology or issues of aging, or look at program planning and evaluation in the healthcare setting. The final course in that first year is Nutrition, Public Health, and Systems Change. And that one looks at the Sustainable Development Goals and how do we build public health programs that for nutrition that are aligned and ready for systems change. The final year is, like we said, the internship and professional project. And then Nutrition 560 there is where you see food systems leadership for nutrition professionals. And that's where you have really focused time in the sustainable food systems focus area. And Anna will talk all about that just coming right up. So the final things you need to know about this first year is that we hear it takes 20 to 30 hours a week to get that coursework and assignments done. There's a lot of group work. And here on this curriculum outline, I've also highlighted when there are synchronous classes too. And there are 4 of those The rest of them are totally asynchronous, meaning that you will have weekly class deadlines, but there's no regular meeting time. Program of study, the final thing is to understand about this degree is that you do get an opportunity to do some research, but at base, we are a professional or non-thesis master's degree, meaning that your coursework plus the supervised practice plus this professional project are what make up the entirety of the degree. So there are no comprehensive exams and there's no thesis or defense of a thesis at the end. It's more project focused, a small bit of research, really with the emphasis on that supervised practice year.
All right, so year 2 of the program is your supervised practice, the dietetic internship portion, and we'll kind of dive into what that looks like here. We spend the first 3 weeks that you arrive in Bozeman focused on that professional development and building that sustainable food systems foundation knowledge. We have people come to our program from all over the country with all kinds of different, I think of it as sort of as a spectrum of experience, knowledge, interest in sustainable food systems, all the way to having had extensive experience with it and are super passionate about it. And so we kind of meet somewhere in the middle and learn from each other during this time. We also explore our local food system, which is really fun. We spend the content is blended, but essentially there's a week of time that is spent really focused on professional development. And that can look like the nuts and bolts of the program, how you navigate sort of the tracking and communications and all of those sorts of pieces. And then also doing some enriching activities as well. We have a professional communications workshop and a variety of different things like that blended in these 3 weeks with the foundation of sustainable food systems, where we're exploring our local food system. And we're pretty lucky in this area to have a really vibrant and active food system all around us. And so we've got great relationships with players all along the food system cycle, I guess. So we look at everything from different food production models, from soil health all the way to the waste stream. So we even tour our recycling facility and compost facility and learn about permaculture and processing and distribution and all of those different elements of the food system. Another thing that we do during the professional development weeks is, you can see kind of in the third picture to the right, is a clinical skills workshop. And that's a 2-day workshop where we're immersing you in sort of your clinical skills and some of the new competencies that we have as nutrition professionals, including taking blood pressure and learning how to do that and a variety of other things. And we really do intentionally blend those days. So you can see the second picture there is only some classroom time, but also there's a lot of outside and fun time too. We have a team building day and do different projects and stuff during that time. So what it might seem vague when we say you might be in the Bozeman area from 5 to 11 weeks. And so the next slide here will kind of illustrate what that might look like a little bit. So what we mean is weeks 1 through 3 for everyone are here on campus with us doing the professional development and taking the tours around our local area. So that's what we call our orientation and professional development and foundation weeks. And then weeks 4 and 5, a bigger group. So for example, this year we have 18 students. And so I have a cohort of 9 that just finished their sustainable food systems applied 2 weeks with me, while the other 9 were doing different rotations around our local area. So they might be working with our partners here on campus in a variety of different rotations. They might be working in the local community, working at our smaller hospital, and kind of everything in between there. And while then they flip. So some of the 9 that just finished with me last week have moved off to their clinical rotations, for example, into their major track area. And some of the other ones are still rotating around the Bozeman area. While the other 9 that were last 2 weeks working in other areas around the community now are with me here on campus and during the Sustainable Food Systems Applied weeks. And so that's sort of the variance. It depends how your track lines out and how long you would stay in the Bozeman specific area before you moved out to your different track around the state. And you can kind of see the map here on the bottom right shows where the different locations are. So Kalispell, Great Falls, Missoula, Helena, Butte, Bozeman, just some of our local rotations, and then Billings. And then we do have tracks in Sheridan, Wyoming, if that's a good fit for someone like Kira said. So um, yeah, that's essentially, you can see sort of the broadness of where our different major track sites are.
Yeah, so something we are trying to be mindful of as a program is we are, dedicated to creating an environment that fosters diversity, equity, and inclusion of all individuals in our college and the MSU community, as well as the communities that we serve, the diverse communities throughout the state of Montana and sometimes Wyoming. So we ask that students in the program participate in activities to promote systems thinking and diversity, equity, and inclusion in healthcare. So we like to approach that with curiosity, reflection, integration, growth, and openness to discussion. Related to these different areas that Lindsay mentioned, we are working on incorporating in the program. So that includes healthcare, LGBTQ plus allies training, sustainable food systems topics, again, to incorporate that systems thinking that we feel is really important in our profession. Food industry sponsored tours, as Anna mentioned, in the, production, distribution, all those different pieces of the food system in the foundation weeks, in weight inclusive nutrition care and education that we are working on around that. Indian education for all, which is unique to Montana if you're coming from out of state, and more. So we encourage you to reach out to any of the three of us for more resources around these topics if you'd like to hear more about what we're trying to do in these areas.
As Kira described, we're really working on offering opportunities for students to grow in knowledge in several areas of diversity. And we also want to acknowledge and honor with respect the Indigenous nations and peoples on whom traditional homelands and ancestral territory Montana State University now stands, and whose historical and cultural relationships with the land continue to this day, including Ipsalica, the Crow Nation. You can see in the yellow there, the traditional homelands, and then also that reservation. The Kootenai, who are part of the Confederated Salish Kootenai tribes over on the western part of the state, on the Flathead Reservation, along with Nez Perce lands, Lakota, Piikani, Blackfeet, Scapi Piikani, the Blackfeet Reservation at the top, and you can see those homelands in purple, as well as Kalispell. It's sort of spelled with a Q, but that's also known as Pend Oreille and Salish. Shoshone also have homelands here, as well as Northern Cheyenne and Anishinaabe or Ojibwe. And I mention this because we can go to the next slide. We have some new resources at Montana State to really learn about caring for Indigenous Montanans. So we have access to a 3 to 4 hour training for each tribal nation that you might be serving in the various areas of the state where you have rotations. And we also have organizations that serve all the tribal nations in Montana here at Montana State. So these trainings are, you get to hear from knowledge keepers of Indigenous knowledge and elders about traditional views on health and healing, as well as how to work cross-culturally with Indigenous peoples of Montana. And so this is one of the ways in which we're trying to grow that Indigenous food systems and also cultural humility and cross-cultural communication in the program. Finally, on this note, we have some opportunities for students to rotate with some of our tribal nations. So we have rotations up at FAST Blackfeet, Food Access and Sustainability Team, and the Blackfeet Community Hospital. So typically 2 interns each get to go for 4 weeks, stay in Browning at the Blackfeet Nation, and have 2 weeks each at FAST Blackfeet, sort of the food access point, and then at the IHS hospital there. Moving down, typically for students who are placed with major rotations in Missoula, there are opportunities for a few to rotate at St. Ignatian at the Confederated Salish Kootenai Tribes Tribal Health, and that's mostly a diabetes and community health program for the Flathead Reservation. And for folks who are placed in Billings, we have opportunities to go to the Hardin Farm to School in K-12, and a lot of Crow students are at Hardin, which sort of borders the Crow Reservation. And second, for students in Billings, they have an opportunity to rotate at Yellowbird Lifeway Center food sovereignty programs. And that's an organization run by a Northern Cheyenne partner. And those students actually get to go to Lame Deer, stay there and rotate for at least 2 weeks at Yellowbird. And then finally, for folks who are really interested in food sovereignty, they can sort of kick off their experience with the Buffalo Nation's Food Systems Initiative at MSU. And that's an initiative that operates under a Buffalo Treaty that works on Indigenous-led education and research. And we typically have 2 students who get to rotate for 2 weeks each with that organization. So for those who want it, we have growing opportunities for rotations in Indigenous food systems and food sovereignty.
So circling back a little bit to those 3 weeks of professional development and Sustainable Food Systems Foundation, I just wanted to show some pictures that are really fun of us working for, or not working, touring the country's only nonprofit processing facility for processing beef cattle. And their mission is to make sure that all of the schools in the state and the food pantries and things have access to local Montana beef, because beef is a huge agricultural product that Montana focuses on. So we spend a day over in the Livingston area, which is just kind of over the hill about 25 miles. And that's where this facility is located. And we also tour this large greenhouse production facility. So these are some of our classes in the last couple of years touring those facilities. So we have a lot of fun during this time. And then moving on to focus in a little bit more on what those 2 weeks look like when we're in the smaller groups together. So we do spend a whole day on food preservation. In fact, that's coming up tomorrow. So when we just finished up today, I had the students go down and bring up all the canning jars so that we can jump right in tomorrow morning. We spend time about 12 hours a week working at our student farm, which is called Town's Harvest Garden. It's a certified organic student-run farm. And so everything from weeding, harvesting, weighing, packing, and then working the different markets. So there's a community supported agricultural program, a CSA program, and a farm stand. And so the students right now, half the students are working with the farm stand tonight. So they're there right now. And we spend a lot of time in our kitchen. We have a very nice culinary food lab, we call it. And we spend a lot of time in there kind of experimenting with different recipes. And if it's a success, then we'll share those recipes with Town's Harvest, and they can share them with their members, their CSA members, in their newsletter. And we also have a lunch and learn program during this time too, that we've got I've got a slide on here in just a second. And we also do our culinary medicine program during this time. So you can go ahead, Lindsay. So culinary medicine, we've been doing this for about 9 years. It started as a pilot program in 2017, and we just finished our program this fall. And we've got 3 different topics that we focus on, plus a farm tour and dinner that sort of kicks the season off. And the premise of this is that it's innovative and experiential. We're focused on interprofessional education. So we in this program are first and second year medical students, and usually about 10 or 12 nursing students, and sometimes a few other health professions sprinkled in there as well. And we're really focused on enhancing nutrition education for those different professions who don't always have a whole lot of exposure to that in their training. And then their personal and professional culinary skills as well. So research shows that if somebody knows how to cook, they're more likely to talk to their patients or clients about cooking and healthy eating as well. So that's sort of the 4 layers of premise and our different topics that we do every year. And it's still a very unique program in the country where we're doing this interprofessionally, and it's led by the dietetic interns and facilitated by us. And it's a really wonderful, high in demand program. And then another component that we do during those 2 weeks is this hot topic lunch and learn. And so that's where the interns get to find something that they're passionate about, or something that really angers them, or something that they've heard in the news that they want to know more about. And you get to do the background research there and teach the rest of us about it. And this is actually a really good format to learn how to educate in, because it's fairly popular when in like clinical settings and things, to host a lunch and learn. And so that's where it's sort of that time, everyone's got to eat lunch. So bring your lunch, and that's a good time to educate others. And so we practice doing that. And this is some of the wonderful dishes that they've prepared. We highlight dishes from food service, of course, and our local area as well. And variety of different topics. We learn so much from all of the different topics and the interns' passions every year. So it's really cool.
So we again wanted to just kind of show you some of the logistical realities about this year of supervised practice too. So what you're looking at here are blue stars, are places where we have comprehensive care facilities that can handle interns for urine clinical rotations in that comprehensive care facility for anywhere between like 9 to 11 weeks. And so that is Kalispell, Missoula, Butte, Helena, Great Falls, and Billings. So you'll notice Bozeman's not starred. It had a purple star before because that's where we do that orientation and all the sustainable food systems applied stuff that Anna was just talking about. And then Sheridan, another blue star right over the border, kind of below Billings-ish, and you'll see its blue star there. So what about Montana should you be aware of if you're considering this program? It's a beautiful, so the picture on the left there is in Glacier National Park. It's gorgeous, and it's also a big state. So we have winter. You might have seen news this year that before the end of August, those beautiful red shuttles that Glacier have were stuck at the top because of a snowstorm of more than a foot of snow coming down. And so that is something that doesn't happen every day, but definitely winter driving conditions are a reality here. And we often get questions from students too saying, well, can I like stay in Bozeman but commute? And that's really not an option. We are the 4th largest state and one of the most rural as well. So Bozeman is the closest towns are Helena and Butte, and they're about like 100 miles, but Billings is 145, Great Falls is almost 200, Kalispell is 300 miles, and Missoula too. So in terms of hours, Missoula is about 3 hours west of Bozeman. Kalispell is about a 5-hour drive northwest. Great Falls, 3 hours. Helena, about an hour and a half to an hour, depending. We do have an 80-mile speed limit, so when roads are good, you can get going pretty fast. And Billings is about 2 hours east. So we just want you to understand, we're also a small rural state. So Bozeman's population is still under 60,000. The Greater Valley has more, but we are still kind of talking in terms of small towns. The biggest town is Billings at a few 100,000. And the whole state has about 1 million people. So just kind of your Montana 101 and sort of what to expect in terms of traveling around. We do really make great efforts to, once you move from Bozeman to your main rotation site, that you'll remain there, with the exception of if you want to do an Indigenous food systems rotation, you would then maybe move to that tribal community and then stay there. We do help with housing in those instances. or if you have, if you express interest in doing a more rural rotation at like a critical access hospital, for example, if you were, for example, placed in Missoula and you wanted to do 3 weeks at critical access, that hospital that we work with is in Polson, Montana on the Flathead Reservation, and that is about an hour north. So folks can choose to move up there for 3 weeks or commute. And that's really based on the preferences that you're going to tell us you're interested in once you're already admitted to the program. But overall, you're not traveling from town to town. It's just around the major area where you're going to move to for your major clinical placement.
And so kind of what that looks like, just mapped out here. Again, 2 weeks of the Sustainable Food Systems Foundations with that 1 week of orientation, and then 2 weeks of applied. And then the clinical nutrition, Lindsay mentioned 9 to 11 weeks in those comprehensive care facilities. Total of about 12 to 18 weeks focused in clinical. And that can include rural hospital rotation. We have relationships with our Veterans Affairs clinical facilities, our IHS facilities. It could be a smaller critical access hospital. There could be rotations in long-term care and in dialysis. So that's kind of the variety of different rotations that we have. 6 to 12 weeks focused in that community nutrition realm, which includes things like WIC and public health, and some of our food banks and food access programs, and statewide community organizations and things that are focused sort of in community realm. And then 4 to 7 weeks in food service management, which can look like K to 12 food service. And everyone rotates through the hospital food service and for 2 weeks. And then sometimes we have rotations in like our university culinary services in both Missoula and here at MSU. And so that's sort of what that looks like. Then we do still offer 2 weeks of a self-selected rotation at the very end of your prescribed rotations, which is up to you. So you get to choose what you would like to do. And we always say the sky's the limit. It's up to whatever resources and connections and things that you have. So we've had people go all over the country. Sometimes they go home to, or start working in a job and use that kind of as their training period. So we've seen it all, and we have a great network of connections all over the country that we can assist you with if you don't have any ideas at a specific time. And then we spend a week for our graduation. And so it's a total of 36 weeks and 1,050 hours. And Lindsay mentioned just briefly tailoring it. So we send out a survey and ask you your preferences. And so we can tailor your track, and your different rotations to what your interests are. So if you don't have any interest in Indigenous health systems, we would not select to put you in that facility. However, on the flip side, if you do, we'll try our very best to get you some experience in that, for example. Yeah, we could do that with a variety of different things. So if somebody's really focused in clinical, we can kind of clinically weigh the experience that you'll have, versus if somebody's way more focused for community nutrition, we've got all kinds of different, with farm to school rotations and all kinds of different opportunities in those different areas. Oh, here's just some more fun pictures of some of the time that we spent together when we were really building that cohort and team and the relationships and your friendships that you're going to have really for the rest of your life. In fact, two of Kira's graduating class just came and visited her last week, I think. So these are relationships that you're going to have for the rest of your life if you choose to. But we really do cultivate that in the very beginning. And so the top left there is at our permaculture demonstration farm called Broken Ground. And on the right are students last year working at Pounds Harvest Garden. So they're out in the field, I think harvesting chard in this case. And then bottom left is our team building day. So we do dedicate an entire day during those first couple of weeks to just having fun and getting to know each other and spending time together, in an informal way.
Yeah, so we'll move through now some of the application logistics. So going over deadlines, different requirements for the application, how we review the applications, and anything else you might be curious about. So for MSU graduates that are applying for pre-select, the application is due by September 29th. So coming up at the end of this month, you will be notified on October 14th. If you have been chosen, and we ask for a $1,000 non-refundable deposit to secure your spot by October 23rd. And conversely, if you are a national applicant, coming in, applying either to the MSDI or the DI only, the application is due by October 11th, so you have a little bit more time. Our Zoom interviews will begin on October 17th, and you'll be notified of selection on October 31st. And again, we would need that non-refundable deposit to secure your spot by November 15th. So we'll be moving through these deadlines quickly and have answers to you by the end of this fall.
So for MSDI applications, the degree required is at least a bachelor's from an accredited university, and then also that DPD verification statement or the didactic program in dietetics. Because we are a dietetic internship in terms of accreditation status, we're only able to accept people who have that DPD verification statement. The application fee is $57, and that can be paid online. And we do not require GREs, and our graduate school isn't even really asking for them at all. You could send them to us and the code is there, but it's not something that we really consider in the application package. And then we do use the DIGIS application portal. We ask for 3 references from dietetics professionals that you've worked with, faculty, or employers. And we also ask that you not apply to the MSU graduate school until you know you've been accepted by us. So we sort of do an internal application and selection process and then move through the graduate school application. And then for folks who are interested in the DI only, we do require that folks have completed their master's degree or are almost done when you're applying, that you will have completed it before the program starts. Again, DPD verification statement is required, that same application fee, don't need any GREs. And in DICUS, we ask for the same things. And so right now we would again be accepting DI only applications for the 25-26 internship year. We would also consider for the 26-27 if you're feeling ready, but that would be contingent upon completing that master's degree.
So our review process, we have a selection committee, and it's made up of our preceptors from all areas of practice. And then so every application, we understand how lengthy the application is and how rigorous it is, and we want to honor that. So every application is reviewed by the 3 of us here on this team. And it's also reviewed by 2 of our selection committee members, and we do have a rubric. But I want to highlight here that we're looking at you holistically. We're looking at all of your experience, all of your different backgrounds, the story that you're telling us about you and your goals and how this program's a fit for you, and sort of this whole package, and including your GPA and work and volunteer experiences and your references, so that we don't have any sort of markers where we say, oh, they didn't hit this benchmark, you're out. We don't do that here in this program. We really consider you as a whole person and with all kinds of variety of different experiences. So again, the applications are scored on a rubric by the 3 of us directors, and then input from the committee. And we do look at scholastic achievement, so your GPA and sort of courses that you've taken and things like that. Work and volunteer experiences, we don't have any sort of threshold that you have to meet necessarily for that, because we understand that a lot of students have to work during their program, their undergraduate programs, to just make ends meet. And So we value that as well. That's the life experience that can be really helpful in our internship. So a blend of work and volunteer work experiences is great. And we also look at your references, and then that personal statement really is 40% of our application score. So that's you not regurgitating your resume, not telling us the same things that you just filled the boxes in all of the areas of the application. That's you telling us your story. Who are you? Why are you a good fit for our program? Why are you interested in our program? Why we should choose you? And it's also an area for you to sort of highlight, if there is something, a gap in your application somewhere, that's a good place for you to explain maybe why. And we do consider all of those things. So, and again, we will begin interviews on October 17th. So
You missed the personal statement slide. Did it accidentally skip right before that one? There it is. Yeah.
oh, good. Okay. Do you want to do that one?
Sure, I can. Yeah, sure. So in your personal statement, like Anna was telling, we want to hear your story, but we do have some specific prompts that we want you to address in a narrative fashion. So what we're not looking for is to list these bullets, A through F, and then answer each one in a QA style. What we'd love for you to do is to consider all of this and maybe have some paragraphs related to each of these, but tie it together for us with an intro and conclusion as you tell your story. So we would love to know, why have you selected a career in dietetics, and what is attractive about this dietetic systems leadership degree? If you are a DI only applicant, then what attracts you to the MDI, to that internship portion? How would a sustainable food systems background benefit you as a dietetics professional? And what's the importance of considering sustainable food systems to the profession? What characteristics, attributes, and experiences do you bring that will help you to be successful in this program? And how will MDI's unique program offerings, that's where you can sort of talk about these different program emphasis that we've talked about, or some of our values as a program, how are those things going to support you in becoming the future RD that you envision yourself to be? Finally, we'd like you to describe how you'd be successful living and working in rural communities in Montana. What's your experience or philosophy in providing inclusive and compassionate care? So what type of clinician do you want to be? And have you lived in a rural space before? Have you considered what it would be like to be in Montana and all the uniqueness that comes with that and with our program? Finally, we address some application weaknesses or things that you'd like to comment on. And we ask for all this in 1,000 words, again, in that narrative style, in paragraphs, in a story that weaves together. And then in the DICAS portal, we have a multiple choice question where you can pick your top 2 preferred regions. And then there's a free text where you can tell us why. Maybe you have family or friends there, or a good living housing opportunity. Maybe you want to have access to working with certain Indigenous communities or rural communities in that area, or whatever it might be. But you have an opportunity to tell us, and then we really try to do our very best to place you in those comprehensive care facilities and those major rotation sites that make the most sense for you.
So how many slots do we have? We are, like Lindsay said, we're accredited for 26 students. And what that looks like, how that breaks down, is for the different areas. Starting in the top left there, Kalispell, we can take up to 3, Missoula up to 5, Great Falls up to 3, Helena 2, Butte 2, Billings up to 9, and then Sheridan, Wyoming up to 2.
I just wanted to mention that for the DI only slots available for this fall, or starting next fall, rather, 26, 25, 26, we have 3 openings actually, we have 3 openings, yeah, in Great Falls or Billings, and then those two slots in Sheridan as well. So know that those are the only options for DI onlys for 25, 26, but everything is open for the 25 to 27 SDI group.
This is just
Yeah, go ahead.
this is just showing sort of the total applicants that we've had over the years. This program, the first class was 2011, 2012, and we don't have that highlighted here, but those were some sort of the initial years starting, but you can kind of see the trends of the number of applicants that we've had. And we are seeing, with the addition of the master's requirement, a little bit of a downturn in the number of applications, which is actually okay. We have a very strong program and have our 26 slots, and we're comfortable, you know, like Lindsay said, even with the 18 slots. So yeah, when we anticipate the numbers will kind of hover around this in the next coming years. And so you can kind of see if there's a total selected of 24 and there's only 32 applicants, that's you know, only 8 people that weren't selected in that case. So chances we have a good program in the country. And lots of other programs have a lot smaller numbers that they're accredited from. So just kind of giving you a glimpse of what that looks like.
I just wanted to add one more thing. I think a lot of people ask us, like, what's your match rate? And these numbers really show not only who we selected, but who selected us. And so really, I think the message we'd love for you to take home from this is we're looking at fit. We're looking at that personal statement. We're not going to fill 26 slots just to fill them. We want to fill them with people who are a right fit for what we're offering, because when you have the right fit and we have the right fit and we both want the same things, that's really what's best for you as a student and what's best for the program. So there's a lot of opportunity to fill slots, and we're definitely looking at that fit piece. And that's why we interview such a high percentage of all our applicants too. So the program cost, when we add up the application fee, the program fee, and the credits, is about $23,000 for residents and $27,000 about for non-residents. And these are based on the 2025, or they are updated every May. So these are based on the updates from May of 2024. And they could be adjusted in the next May, depending on what our Board of Regents decides. But that program fee is paid over the final 2 semesters, half in the final fall and half in year 2 spring. And that is to support placements and dietetic internship rotations. And tuition and fees are charged out based on the number of credits taken and the fees associated in each semester. If you want to go to the next slide, Kira, it just shows the costs for the DI only. And so this, again, is for folks who already have their master's degree. And really, it is 12 graduate credits and fees, but the majority of the cost is coming from that program fee, which is spread over those final 2 semesters. And financial aid is available. So the MSDI and the DI only are financial aid eligible programs, and you can contact the MSU Office of Financial Aid for more information. But we also have quite a bit of other scholarships. So in the first year, the graduate school has offered what are called professional master's fellowships, and those cover 6 credits of tuition. And we got 2 of those each between 2021 to 23, and we actually got 3 of those in 2024. So 3 students got 6 credits of tuition waived. And then in that second year, we have scholarships that are only for MDI students. So between 18 and 20,000 was awarded the past 3 years, and that was spread among 9 to 13 applicants who were, again, only from that pool of MSDI or DI only students. And then there are a few each year who also get the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Foundation awards or other scholarships too. We made it.
There you have it. This was Kira's first day with us, by the way, actually.
It was, yes. Just recently.
Yeah, just at the end of June, Kira joined us. So with that, we can take your questions now, which we'd love to take them in the chat if you want to come off mute and ask. The floor is yours now.
welcome to turn your cameras on too if you'd like to do that as well.
Hello, hi.
Carla.
Hi.
Hi. I have a couple questions. One about the master's and also about the internship itself. As far as the master's classes, what is kind of like the breakdown of how we go about like the weekly like if they're just like Zoom calls, like lectures, or kind of like just the way they're formatted.
That's a great question. Kira, would you mind kind of going back to that curriculum slide? And I could just maybe use a few classes as examples. So the first summer course, that family law and public policy one, is totally asynchronous. So students have assigned readings and discussion board posts every week. And then they have maybe 3 or 4 assignments that are building up to a final paper where you sort of get draft versions and feedback, and students are asked to examine the impacts of a policy on a community that they might be serving in the future. And so there's a lot of opportunity to look at food access policies or other food related policies and how they impact communities. So that's one example. Whereas in the fall, the research methods 1 class, it's a big online lecture for the first hour and a half of class every Tuesday. And then the DSL, the Dietetic Systems Leadership students, break off with one of the instructors, Brianna Routh. She is a preceptor for us. She's a dietitian. She's also our extension food nutrition specialist and family. And then she works with them specifically on their questions related to their degree and their professional projects. And so it's like you're getting a lot of information as a big group, but then you have time to sort of figure out what it means for you and your assignments with Brianna. The Thursday night class in the fall semester is a lot of group work. So it starts off with lecture style every week, and then students in small groups, I think it's groups of 2 or 3, investigate the literature on how does weight loss affect a specific disease state, and then they run a class and present that information and create discussion for the last half of the semester. The advanced food systems management that fall semester that's more like math, like human resources ratios, infamous scoop sizes, right? Like everyone knows about those. And that one's a really helpful class for RD and exam prep as well. But that one's more like read a chapter, do some problems, and then there are some bigger unit tests. So it really is a wide variety of delivery methods, but there are only a few classes that are truly asynchronous where you're kind of driving through the content on your own. And even for that one, there is a final group project too. So you're having contact with your other classmates. And that's why we're also doing that couple day orientation in that first summer so that you get to know your classmates and you're not just having to meet them only online.
Mhm.
Does that sort of help?
Yeah,
answer?
definitely. Yeah. It helps to kind of see not only like for scheduling purposes, but also like how we can best interact with our classmates and the professors to be able to do our best in each class. So, and as far as the internship, for after, because I know a lot of the graduate program is going to help us for the RD exam. But during the internship, is there a lot of resources to kind of, I guess, kind of have that repetitiveness of information that we need for the actual exam when we do get to that point?
That's a great question too. So we actually purchase Eat Right Prep for every intern right now. And in the spring, so the final spring is when we start to sort of focus on exam prep if students are ready. We find a huge diversity. Like some students want to finish the program and test as soon as possible. And other students are like, I'm going to work for the summer up in Alaska and then go to Scotland for a month and then come back. Or another student I can think of recently stayed in Bozeman and is just working all summer and like needed a break. And then she's gonna start studying like now. And that's one that graduated in May. So we respect that diversity of approaches, and we give you opportunities to do several practice tests in that final spring, but it's not, there are no like real assigned studying requirements. And then students have access to that Eat Right Prep platform for a year to help them once they're done. And then we also do like an exam prep workshop, or like 2 or 3 workshops kind of during grad week to help folks feel prepared. And often that includes an MNT review that's really exam specific too, since that makes up about 50% of the RD exam.
Okay. All right, great. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, it's a wealth of information, definitely. I will say I want to know if it's someone like someone from the program or someone in the current internship program in charge of the social media, like the Instagram posting, because it's really nice to see what how involved everybody is, and what everybody currently is doing in the internship. But that would be cool to be involved in something like that. But yeah, I would just like to know who's in charge of that.
We have a social media coordinator that's a graduate assistant position that's new for us this year.
Oh, nice.
And so we're really excited to have a person helping us with our social media content and sort of making that regular and consistent and relevant, right?
Mhm.
And then we ask the interns, the students, to help us populate content as well. So we do have a social media assignment that sort of spins off of that strategic communications workshop that we offer during the orientation weeks. And
Mhm.
so they're sort of staggered throughout the year, and they can highlight different areas of practice or kind of a day in the life. And so that's where a lot of that content comes from too.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to see a program having that sort of involvement, other than just kind of within their own scope and within their own program. It's being able to share it with others that are interested in the program itself, and also just in nutrition overall. So it's cool. Yeah.
Good. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah. But for now, that's all the questions that I have. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks for attending. And Karina, I saw that you don't have any questions, so thank you as well for joining us. And everyone out there who's going to watch the recording, welcome. And we're glad that we can provide you some more information. And all of you, please be in touch. If more questions come up, our contact information is on our website, and we're happy to connect with all of you and answer your questions or provide more information.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank
Thank-
you.
Love to hear from you.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank
Take
you.
care.
Have a good afternoon.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.